Hi listeners, I'm Anna Kaszycki, world champion rower with 3 international degrees and now youth mentor and coach. This is the Aspire Beyond Greatness podcast, where I share inspiring individual stories to empower you to achieve your goals and future life pursuits. If you enjoyed the podcast today, please leave a 5-star review on iTunes. Have a great day, and remember, go after what you want. Thanks for joining us today on the Aspire Beyond Greatness podcast. We have a very special guest today, Florence Kelly. Thanks for joining us today, Florence.
Thank you, Anna. That's wonderful to be here.
Perfect. And to give our audience a little bit more background, Florence is a life skills coach for Florence Kelly Coaching, and she helps youth and young adults navigate through life and sort of come unstuck with some of the things they might be struggling with. So I'm really excited to hear a little bit more about Florence's journey and some of the work that she does with youth today.
Wonderful. Looking forward to it too, Anna.
Thank you. And to kick us off, I'd love for you to give us, if you could go back to your 14-year-old self, and what advice would you give to yourself at that time?
The advice would be, you are loved. Everything is going to be okay. And don't be afraid to be yourself.
That's perfect. Did you feel at that age that you might have sort of not felt that you could be yourself, or why is it that you would like to kind of say that to your 14-year-old self?
It was very much because, I don't know about other people out there, but I'm probably speaking to a lot of people's hearts right now. 14, I didn't know who I was, wasn't sure in who I was, followed crowds, followed people, trying to find who is Florence in this world and sea of faces. It's easy when the person is the A grade student or the top sports person, but I flew very much under the radar, didn't have a particular thing that I stood out for in any way, shape or form. And so it was very hard to kind of say, Florence is the sports person, Florence is the this, Florence is, I'm an artist, I'm a this, I'm a that. So it was, and consequently, I spent the next 30 years trying to find out who is Florence. And probably wasn't until I was in my 40s, which I am now, that I started to uncover who that is and actually allowed myself to be that. Also being very sensitive and intuitive, it was very hard to know who is Florence in this world of picking up everything from everyone. So Florence sort of got lost in the blend and mix of the lives and personalities of everyone around me. So that's why I would say that it's actually okay to be yourself. Even if it is quirky and a bit weird and a bit whatever, it's okay.
I love that. I think it really does take a bit of time and patience and probably just work through different, groups and things when you're a young person to navigate those. But I think that's brilliant advice to, everything will be okay and to stand up as yourself and be that person.
Because in the end, that's what you're going to be. So you may as well just own it now.
Yeah.
No point spending 10 years covering it up and then come out and go, I'm actually quite quirky, and that's okay.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. And I'd like to know a little bit more about the career that you have now, but most importantly, how did you decide on that career?
It's one of those situations where the career found me. So it's like I just seem to have attracted young adults always who come and ask me for advice, come and ask me for this and so forth. So as I said, it kind of found me. However, the journey there was going through all sorts of different career moves. But most recently, in the last 10 years, about 10 or 15 years, was moving into the world of teenagehood. Yes, my children were coming into teenagehood at that time. I'll probably know they're only about 5 or so. But so I started working with a group called Youth Enterprise Trust, which don't operate anymore. And they ran a beautiful program for youth-based out in the bush first. And it was a rite of passage into adulthood. So they took them out bush so the kids could find themselves in the midst of all of that, who they are, who they're not, and then come back and make a life plan for at least the next 12 months. I fell in love with that whole idea and concept. At the same time, I was discovering personal growth. So I was always interested in personal growth, always interested in learning, coaching and that sort of thing, but I never really formalized it. So I was very much doing the workshop here, workshop there, so forth. And so I fell in love with working with youth, then seeing transition and lives transform. And then I started in the personal growth industry, and I started working for a personal growth company. They ran and still do experiential workshops, which really cut to what's going on underneath people quite quickly. So when they have an issue or so forth, the whole point of the workshop and the work was during the workshop, give you the tools and skills to identify and help yourself to help yourself. And then when people were out of the workshop space, they could still do it because they had the tools and skills. So I, again, fell in love with the personal growth industry and idea and so forth, which then led me to working for the Real Teens Foundation. So they were the not-for-profit arm of this company, for want of a better word, run by volunteers. And it was a personal growth workshop just for teenagers, and it was an empowerment workshop. So teenagers would walk in on the Saturday morning, hoodies up, arms crossed, don't want to talk to anyone, and by the Sunday they were dancing, being themselves, and just loving life. And I ran that foundation for 2 years or a bit more, and ran the teams, the volunteers, the everything. And we took the workshop across to Perth. So then we were running workshops in Perth and Brisbane, and we had a team of teenagers. It started out to be like 8, and we had a team of about 20 to 30 in both states of just teenagers, and then the adults that came to support it. So all up, we ended up transforming the lives of over 450 youth across 2 states in 2 years. So I loved it. It was closed down for financial reasons. We couldn't go forward, as you know, with most not-for-profits. It gets like that. And so I still had teenagers wanting to come and speak to me, and I'd always find myself having discussions with them, and just in a matter of a 10-minute conversation with me, they would get I get that now. So because of all the skills and tools I'd picked up through all the years of personal growth and then working with young people and youth at the Real Teens Foundation, it just grew from there. So I thought, well, and then I thought about my son, because I write for a magazine called Wholly Natural, and the editor knows my history and my story, and she knows that my son has Aspergers. So she asked me to write an article for her magazine that's coming out this issue, and it was Aspergers, A Mother's Heart. And it was my personal journey with Aspergers. And then I realized through writing that there are lots of young people out there who may not even have Asperger's, but who just need that one person to talk to. That's not a counselor, not a psychologist, not a parent, not a legal authority, just someone they can just go and be real and just go, hey, this is what's going on. I learned that through my journey. I was also a mentor for Boys Town. That program has consequently, of course, closed down. And I learned through mentoring how to work with youth in a way that and that also empowered them differently. So I chose to take that on now and just be that person in a young person's life where they can just go, hey, I just need to talk this out, and that's what I do.
That's beautiful. I love that. I think my favorite part of what you said was how you decided on your career was being that person who is non-judgmental for youth. And I think that, depending on who we talk to, there's a certain expectation that people have of us when we're young. And so having someone who you can just be real with, like you said, it opens up so many doors to just trying to figure out what you want to be without having any of the expectations attached to it.
And you absolutely right, Anna, and that's what I discovered with youth. The youth just want to be heard and loved for who they are and where they are at, even when they're throwing a tantrum. And that's all. And it's the hardest thing in the world to do, but then it's also the easiest thing to do once an adult can just let go of, as you said, the expectation, you must be this, you must do this, you must. Yes, there are rules. Yes, there are certain ways of how to behave and so forth. Don't get me wrong, I do have my boundaries when it comes to language and so forth. But that's more of a respect thing because, and the teenagers know, they know not to swear around me. They know, because they know that I love them and they know that, I actually want the best for them. And if that is disrespectful to them in that moment, I mean, there are times, yes, we all swear, of course, but when it's part of their everyday language, anyway. So, they just know that when they're with me, it's okay. And if they swear, they kind of go, oh, sorry, Flo. That's okay. It's fine. You pick yourself up. That's fine. It's just helping them to develop that level of respect for themselves, a standard for themselves that they want, not one that I impose on them, that they want. But if I don't role model at least something, they're not going to know. So it's role modeling respect, love and respect for yourself, and boundaries. But it's done in a very, it's done in an empowering way. It doesn't take away from them. It adds to them. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. These teenagers, that's all they want is just to be loved and to be heard. To be heard is the biggest thing. Even when they don't know what they're trying to say, they know that you're hearing them. Because through, like, how I do conversations with people, I just listen I hear what's underneath it. And I kind of go, so are you trying to say, and correct me if I'm wrong, X, Y, Z, and this is how it's making you feel? Yes. Oh, finally. And they connect up the dots. And then it's like, right, now we've got something to work from. So, yeah, that's kind of how I work. And what I've discovered with teenagers is sometimes they don't have the words. And if you help them find the words, they can find the solutions for themselves. I want to know that any young person I work with, that when I'm not around, they know how to find a solution for themselves. Empowerment and empowering them to become the leader that they are in their own lives. We're all called to be leaders in our lives. It doesn't mean that we're going to stand out in front of a team or in front of leadership is how do you lead yourself in life, through life. We're all leading ourselves through life somehow. What sort of a leader are you? Because everybody's watching, and not in a judgmental way, but everybody's watching everybody else in a sense of who are you, so we can work with people, and we're all leaders in that. So part of what I want to inspire the youth is to understand that they are leaders in their own lives, and how are they going to lead? Who are they going to be, and what are they going to leave behind? What's their legacy?
I love that. That's amazing. Yes. Especially what you said about leading yourself well. I actually had a coach tell me that when I was studying, and I had a rowing scholarship to the US a couple of years ago. And that was something that he told us, was that in the first 2 years of uni, when we're all, in our early 20s, that you're learning how to lead yourself. And then in the second 2 years, you need to lead yourself well, because other people are following your example. And I didn't really understand it until obviously the third and fourth year.
Yeah.
It's such a powerful message. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, it is powerful. And you had a very wise coach.
Thanks. Yeah, he was won a few national championships over there. He was just a really good person, and it made a lot of sense. Yeah, there was a lot of truth behind that. You've got a lot to share, and I love the lessons that you've taught us so far about youth. And what would you say has been your greatest lesson?
My greatest lesson has been pride and humility. They are the opposite sides of the same coin. And pride, when it's done from love, is a good thing. But pride, when it's done from fear or arrogance, is very dangerous. And humility is not what a lot of people perceive it to be. Humility is actually not a weakness. Humility is a strength. The word humility actually means bridled strength. Just because you can doesn't mean you have to. So just because you know doesn't mean you need to tell everybody. And and humility loves the other person more than making themselves known. So what I've learned through working with youth, by lifting them up, I get to have pride from love, not pride from my own accomplishments. There was a cost in that, because when I was running Real Teams, I used to hide a lot, which is a distorted form of humility, really. Because I wasn't being a great leader then, was I? So I'd be called up on stage and recognized and all this at the end of the workshops and so forth, and I hated it with a passion. I'm not here for people to give me accolades. I'm here to lift the young people up. But in doing that, I was showing them that you actually can't own who you are by hiding. So it actually took everything I had to actually get up on stage, so I do all that. But internally, I'd be cringing. So what I learnt was pride and humility are sides of the same coin. What I found with youth, a lot of them don't understand that. And it's something obviously that life grows you into, because you're not born knowing that, really, at the end of the day, to my knowledge, And so it's helping also youth to differentiate what that is, because our youth are currently in a performance culture. I learnt many years ago. It's only getting worse. And it's who they are, how they perform, how they look, all of it, that's their true value through social media, through school. I mean, it was there when I was a teenager. It definitely was. The social media and the media itself and everything else has exacerbated that. It's made it worse. And so a lot of young people don't understand the difference between what pride should be and what humility is. And so they come across as very prideful, which is fine when you're a youth, but then it's growing out of that and into understanding what that is. Because then when they transition from teenagehood into adulthood, they need to understand, well, they don't need to do anything, but it's of value to them to understand how to be humble in the presence of others, because they will then be lifted up by others. I learned a long time ago, it's not what you say about yourself that matters, it's what others say about you that matters. More credibility when someone says, hey, Anna is an amazing interviewer. Gosh, she's got some great podcasts. That's got more cred than, the actual podcast person saying, oh, I've got this and it's really good, right? So it's leading your life to become that person that people want to talk about in a way that is empowering.
That's awesome. I think that ties in so well with what you were saying before as well about leading yourself well. And yeah, I think you don't really notice that much, or at least I didn't feel like I did being younger, just what others say about you, because you just doesn't cross your mind. But then as you get older, yeah, I guess you could sort of think, oh, I wonder what people where I work, what they think about me when I go, or my family, or different things like that. But yeah, it definitely carries a lot more weight what others are saying. And I guess it's kind of this idea of how do you want to leave them feeling when you finish an interaction with them. And I hope, and I didn't realize this until a few years ago, but I'd hope to always leave them feeling a bit better. And I think that's something that a lot of people, that you feel good around. It makes you feel good and you think, yeah, that person makes me feel better when I leave them. And that's a really good quality to have.
Absolutely. One of the things that I've always said to young people and to myself, and that is leave an imprint on their heart, not on their minds. And when you leave a positive and loving imprint on their hearts, it's so much more powerful. You can bamboozle people, not bamboozle, but you can, a person can wow people with everything they know and how much they've done and this and so forth. But at the end of the day, how have they left that person feeling better about themselves or worse? And which is what you said. And so to take that a step further, it's the imprint that you leave on people's hearts. How have you loved them in that moment? And sometimes it's just a smile. Sometimes it's just, hey, you know what? You got this. I learned that through one of the workshops that I did, and part of it was I had to present something. I was so nervous. I was trying to remember the lines and going over it and going over it and going over it, and I was so nervous. And another team member came out and she just said, you got this. I believe in you. That's all I needed. I laid it down and I was like, oh yeah, I can do this. Sometimes having someone believe in you more than you believe in yourself in a way that's not, in a way that's genuine and real, wow, that can really lift a person up. And that's the type of person leading yourself, leading others, and leaving that positive imprint on people's hearts. And that's just, as I said, could be as simple as a smile, a kind word, seeing where someone is at and just say, hey, can I make you a cup of tea? That's it. Let's talk. A hug. It's actually, it's one of the easiest things to do. Again, I've come to realize that some of the easiest things in the world to do are sometimes the hardest, because we have to leave ourselves behind and be in service to the other person. And that took me a long time. I mean, you do it naturally as a mother because you have to. No. So motherhood taught me that, but also through my life, just through different things as well. But being in service to someone else in that moment. And what people don't understand, well, I shouldn't generalize. There is an opportunity to understand here that the gift is actually to me when I do that.
Mm.
Because I get to know that I've made that change in that person's life. No one's ever going to know. And it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant what people know and don't know. But it matters to me because then I can reflect back on that moment and go, I'm so glad that person is now here or there or has moved through that. So, yeah, I get to have that gift and they do. So, yeah.
That's perfect. And I wanted to share with you, so I believe that everyone is made up of the experiences that they have. So both the, the wonderful things that happen to them, but then also maybe some of the setbacks. And what would you say has been your greatest setback?
My greatest setback. I think my greatest setback was both a sabotage, a success, and then a sabotage. Let me explain. My greatest setback from my life, which shifted me to become a better person, but then also bound me up, was I was born in Australia. My parents are Algerian. I was born in Australia. And when I was 5, we all moved back to France for about four years, just to see if we liked it there and so forth. So I spoke English and French from a young age. When I came back to Australia, because I didn't get to go to school, when I came back to Australia, I couldn't speak English. So I had to learn how to speak English and how to read and write. So I was really kept down 2 years and so forth, which pushed me to want to excel at learning English and speaking it and showing that I could do it, and which was great. But then what that did for me was I didn't stop wanting to learn, which is a positive thing. However, I then transitioned that to, unless I'm knowledgeable, I'm not worthy, and people will think that I'm uneducated and not worthy. So it pushed me to learn and learn and learn and learn and learn, which is fine. But then what happened was, if I didn't know something, I wouldn't try because I didn't want to make it look like a fool. Mm. So what was a success became a sabotage. But then I transitioned that, and once I could get underneath, it took me 20 years to get underneath it or more. And when I finally got underneath it and realized, oh wow, that's what I'm doing, I released it. And now it's like, I know, I don't know, it's irrelevant. It doesn't change who I am. That's not my identity. I had to be the person who had all the knowledge and all the wisdom and everything, which pushed me to learn coaching and all the modalities and everything else that I learned, which was great. But then, like I said, it would stop me from stepping into the unknown because I didn't have that skill or tool or so forth. So that was my greatest setback, but then it also became my greatest gift.
Perfect. Well, that ties in well with what are you most proud of?
What am I most proud of? That is I've actually never really thought of that. What am I most proud of? Okay, as a mother, I want to say my children, but but that's not the point. I think I'm most proud of the fact that I reconnected back with my faith. So what my faith is actually relevant, but what it did for me was that is what took me to the next level within myself. So I was proud of the fact that I laid down my prejudices, I laid down my pride, I laid down my arrogance, and chose to follow a path that then allowed me to become even more of myself. And when I say faith, I mean, that's anybody who who chooses a particular path that or teaching that's going to lift them up. And because as human beings, we don't have all the answers. We don't. That's how it worked out. some of the stuff I have to surrender and go, okay, universe, you know, like 1,000 times better than me. I got no answer here. So I need your inspiration and wisdom. And then it comes through. So it's taken the knowledge and wisdom, the knowledge that I did have, and it's added, wisdom to it and understanding that it was beyond my human capacity. And the fact that I was able to lay down my pride and arrogance and step into this new path with gratitude and humility, I think that's what I'm most proud of.
Oh, amazing. It sounds like quite a journey.
Oh, it was.
lots of lessons in between. I want to share with you this idea that I have, which is that from the minute that you wake up in the morning and as you go about your day helping and supporting youth, your family, your friends, the different things that you're doing throughout your day, to the minute that you're going to bed at night, I believe that everyone turns up in life with a certain set of skills and their personality. For example, some people could be really confident, some people could be really genuine or positive. What do you believe that you bring when you turn up, Florence?
I bring joy, light, and laughter. And I'll tell you why. I have been told in workplaces that I am too loud. In my laughing and in my joyfulness, I had to tone it down. You're too joyful for a Monday morning, Flo. I'm like, really? Like, how does that work?
Well, that is a good thing.
Yeah, so that's what I show up with. And of course, I show up with love, joy, and light. And then I just sit back and I allow others to be who they are in whatever capacity that is. And just give them the freedom to be who they are with me. And
Perfect.
yeah.
Awesome. And what would you say inspires you every day?
Oh, what inspires me every day? Life, living. What inspires me every day is the opportunity to make a difference in someone's life. Whether it's if my feet hit the ground in the morning, I thank the universe that I have breath in my lungs, I have feet that I can walk on, hands I can move, and so forth. And then the opportunity to go out into the world, and as I said, make a difference. And that can just be going out and smiling at people, having a conversation, saying good morning. The opportunity to spread love and cheerfulness through the world. That's what inspires me. Yeah, bring a light into the world. And sometimes it's what inspires me is not the big things, it's the little things that make the major changes in people's lives. The things that people miss.
Oh, that's perfect. Little things, yeah, that's, I think we forget about that sometimes and we get so caught up in all the big stuff that, you know, if we just look around us and pay more attention to the little things, yeah, life seems to be pretty good.
It's in the little things that I find the greatest gratitude.
Definitely. It's one of those things where you have to really pay attention to it more, isn't it? I have one of my family friends, their mum's is amazing, and she told me that when she was struggling in her life that she would remember every morning just 3 things to be grateful for. And I thought, oh, that, you know, that'd be easy, or, you know, and then when I tried to do it, it took a bit of practice before I was comfortable with it, but it makes a big difference when you realize there are so many things that you can be grateful for.
Absolutely. And you're right, it does take practice because it means getting out of our own issues and what's dragging us down, laying those down to see what's actually in the world. And sometimes that's really hard to do, especially when we're going through some really tough times. It is really hard to find just that one thing to be grateful for. But that was very wise words from your friend's mum, because in that finding gratitude, every emotion has, and it'll probably sound wrong, but a resonance, a frequency. And gratitude is actually one of the highest frequencies. And when you operate in that frequency, your whole, everything is energy around us. Everything is frequency and energy. And people can choose to walk in a low frequency and energy, which is like anger and sadness and so forth, or they can choose gratitude. And it actually impacts the molecules of everything around you and the people around you. It's like I often tell young people, have you ever been, especially when they're dealing with emotional issues or people they don't understand, and I say, well, have you ever walked into a room and you kind of go, whoa, this energy isn't right, you know? Yeah. I go, well, sometimes you'll probably find that someone's just had an argument in that room, or they're angry, or, you know, and it stays, the frequency stays, and you're walking through it. And so it's just to help the young people understand how their emotional state actually impacts the world around them, because a lot of them haven't actually connected that up. And it also impacts on what they attract into their lives, because like attracts like, right? So, but it's an easy thing to say, to move from anger and sadness up to gratitude. However, that takes a lot of practice and a lot of undoing of habits, of emotions, of so much. Because if you just take the emotion of anger, you know, we actually have receptors on our body, as you would know. Anger produces a chemical, and the receptor sites on the cells develop for this particular chemical, right? And so what happens is, the more a person is in anger, the more receptor sites the body produces to receive that chemical that the body produces. Therefore, the more people stay in the energy of anger, because that's what feeds it, right? So when young people understand the chemistry of it, they then understand why they need to move forward on how they're actually thinking, because it takes them out of the situation, places them in the position of the observer, gives them an opportunity to have a break from the situation, understand what goes on, so when they're in it, they can then make that choice, and they have that understanding. Oh, that's right, I'm doing X, Y, Z to my body right now. Okay, just choose one thing that's slightly better, just one thing. And then it just goes up and up from there. So, yeah, that's, I've lost track of the question that you asked.
No, that's perfect. Yeah, it's explaining how important gratitude is and how.
That's it, gratitude.
Yeah. And I'd love to know, because I think it's so important that we have people around us who support us. Who would you say is your biggest supporter?
Now, I'm actually going to say, based on my faith, it's Great Spirit is my greatest supporter. Now, when I was younger, it's quite interesting, because I never really stopped to ask that question. Who is my supporter? And I never sought support, so that was my sabotage too. I never sought support. But when I think about it, it was actually my parents that were my greatest supporters. Even though they never said much, I now understand that in the background, they were doing so much for me that I will never truly understand until I see them again. They've both passed away. So, yeah, I would have to say, as I was growing up, my parents, and Yeah, and my greatest supporter is my husband, and I have a friend of mine who's a coach, mentor, Mama Bear, I call her, spiritual, what do they call it? Spiritual advisor, or I don't know, whatever you want to call them. She's just the person I kind of go to and go, I'm trying to make sense of this, and she goes, well, let's think about it. So yeah, so I have a person in my life that I am being to young people, so that then I can transition through to help them. Yeah,
Definitely. All right. I just want to say thank you so much for your time today, Florence. Really enjoyed hearing more about your story and the lessons that you've had to share with us. And I just wanted to kind of go over my 3 favorite things that we've spoken about today that our audience can take with them.
Mhm.
And that's your first message, which was, for your younger self, that everything will be okay and to embrace your uniqueness at that age. And the other one was to lead yourself well and that we're all leaders, because I think there are times where we sort of look up to other people, and I know when I was younger wanted direction from, parents or managers or team leaders and things like that, when if I can be that leader for myself, or if you can be that for themselves, then you're putting less of the onus on someone else and you're trying to become those things for yourself too. And the last one was just what you said about what others say about you is more important than what you say about yourself. And just your little sort of quote that was the imprint that you leave on people, after you leave them is really important. So I've loved everything that you've shared with us today. Thank you for your time.
You're so welcome, Anna. Thank you for the opportunity, and I wish you well in everything that you do.
Thank you. And if our audience wants to connect with you, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Yep, so probably the best way is Florence at florencekelly.com. So that's my email address. So Florence at florencekelly.com.
Perfect. Okay, well, if you've enjoyed the episode today, be sure to leave us a review on iTunes and stay tuned for another episode of Aspire Beyond Greatness.
Wonderful.